Marley, I love that you brought the red balloon to church. This is perfect. There's a painting, a really, really famous painting by an artist named Banksy, and it's called Little Girl with a Balloon. And it's just like so Marley walking up, that's it, that's the painting. And it was so funny because this painting, there's this artist named Banksy who's based out of London. And he's really known for just being a wild guy. He started by spray painting big murals around London. And he's done several huge, really funny pranks in the art world that aren't that funny, but to artists in that community. Like he snuck a huge painting of his into a London museum and he hung it. It took several days before they discovered that it wasn't supposed to be in that museum. So he painted this little girl with a red balloon and it sold at Sotheby's auction house for $1.4 million. Can you imagine? $1.4 million, right? To hang a painting in your bathroom. And he designed it in this beautiful gilded frame, this golden frame, and hidden in the bottom of the frame was a shredder. Like what you put your bills in at the end of the month, right? And so the moment the gavel hit, it said sold $1.4 million, the painting let go from the inside of the frame and fell through the shredder. Shocking! Everybody, shocking the guy who just bought the painting. Shocking everybody. It was unheard of. It was a self-destructing painting. And people are so aghast because there are rules of how we live in the art world. The art world has become this thing that it's elite, that it's austere, that it is done with taste and class, and it's done by the wealthiest of the wealthy who can enjoy such magnificent pieces of work. And yet it's so strange, right, when we do this because art is so natural. That art comes from within. If you give a 2-year-old, if you give Marley a basket of Sharpies, she can redecorate the entire house, right? It just comes from within. The children immediately, they see crayons and they want to draw, they want to produce. So we see our first people living in caves. They picked up ashes from the fire and they began to decorate the walls. That it comes from within, and art is meant to be expressive and creative and fun and lighthearted and wonderful and enjoyable. And what I love about Banksy is it took it back to its basics. It took it back to its roots. It says, what are we really about? We create all these laws of how we can have and enjoy art. Well, what is it really about? And sometimes you have to go back to basics. Sometimes we have to go back to basics and ask ourselves as a society, why are we doing this at all? What is it all about? The scripture today is interesting. The scripture is one that I think we often misread and I think we misinterpret. It takes a little effort, a little work to understand because Jesus is talking about divorce and about children in the same 2 paragraphs, but he's not really talking about divorce. He's not really talking about children. They come to test Jesus. Because it's this group of men. These are the politicians and the lawyers and the leaders and the elite members of society who rule society and govern how we should live and do. And Jesus is challenging that. And it's frustrating because they see their power leaving. They see a loosening of their control. And so they come to challenge Jesus. They were tested because they want to entrap him. They want to put him in prison. They want to take his life. They want to quiet his voice because he's saying these radical and horrifying things. So they come to test him. They say, Jesus, tell us about divorce. Is it legal? He says, I don't know. What does Moses say? What do your laws tell us? What are the things that you created tell us? But then he turns it back to the basics. He says, we've got to go back to the very root of all things. We've got to go back to Genesis itself. And ask not just why are we married, but why were we created? And so he goes back to Genesis 2. And we started with the Genesis reading. And I think we tend to read it wrong. There's 2 interpretations. There's the best translation is to say, God created Adam. God created the sun, and it was good. And God created the trees, and it was good. And God created the water, and it was good. He created man, and it was good. But then man was alone, and it was not good. That it was not good, even in paradise. It was not good for man to be alone. It says he fell into a deep sleep. He falls into this coma. And it's not that there's no word of rib. It doesn't say he took his rib. It says, and God cleaves the side of Adam. It's like mitosis when 2 cells split perfectly and they're both equal parts of the same cell. That's why when Adam wakes up, he says, look, bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. It's not that God takes a little bone. It's that he falls into deep sleep and he separates Adam. And now instead of Adam being alone and being by himself, there are 2. There are people to be in a relationship, people to care for one another, an object for Adam to love and for him to be loved. And it says, look, I've created for you a helper. And we think of this often as someone who's lesser than you. But it doesn't say, I've created for you a maid. It doesn't say, look, I've created for you a housewife. Look, I've created for you a mother. It says, I've created for you a helper. And the only time we see this word repeated through Scripture is when the psalmist refers to God himself. He says, God, you are my helper. You are the sustainer. You are the one that gives me life. You are the purpose of my life. And I can't live without you, God. You are my helper. And so he turns and says, this man is your helper. This is the one who will sustain you. This is the one who will give you the basic needs of your life, which is to be in relationship. That you were created to love. You were created to love and to be loved. And so when Jesus is asked about divorces, we got to go back to the beginning. We're made for love. We're made to care for each other, and we can't live without it. And then the next part qualifies that. Well, then who do we love? And then how are we supposed to love? And we see Jesus over and over. This is Jesus' response to everything. Lord, how can I enter the kingdom of God? How can I come? And what can I do to be? He says, then love. Love your neighbor as you love yourself, and then you will know God. And then you will be in the very presence of God. He says, well, then who is my neighbor? And Jesus then turns to the young children. And he says, you can't enter the kingdom of God unless you come as a child. But it's not saying that you have to become childlike. You know, what if on that day when this fiery chariot comes from heaven and pick me up, and we all become childlike and say, quit pushing me, I have to go to the bathroom. Are we there yet? Not that we have to become childlike. What he's saying is, these parents have drugged their children to the presence of Christ because there's something big happening. Because it's exciting. Because this man is speaking with authority and power. And the parents are going to tell their children about this moment for the rest of their lives. And they want them to experience this because this is what we do to our children. We drag them to places they don't want to go. And take their pictures because we say, even when you don't want to do it now and you're whining and complaining, it's valuable for you. This is important. And so they come with their children and they say, go, meet Jesus, sit on his lap, feel his hair, be amongst the sky. But children have no value. In that day, in that age, in the year, 30, there's like men, there's the Pharisees, the men with power and voice and authority. And then way below them is women, they're tolerated and used. And then below the ground are the children. Right? The children have no value. Children have no purpose. Children are to be tolerated. They're meant to be present until they are of value, until they can begin to shepherd, they can begin to work. And that's why it's a big deal to celebrate when a child becomes a man or a young woman. Now you have name. Now you have power. Now you have a purpose in our society. And so the disciples were reacting as any man would say. Look, here's this important rabbi. Hot off of a very important speaking engagement. He's tired, he's exhausted. Keep the children away. They smell bad and they ruin everything. And they're saying, keep the children out. And Jesus says, stop. Stop. Let the children come to me. He says, let the children come to me. For these are the ones who inherit the kingdom. Saying these are the ones who inherit the kingdom, not because they're children, but of what they represent. Because children are the ones who are powerless. Children are the ones who are vulnerable. Children are the ones who have no voice and no status. And so he says, this is the kingdom of God is encapsulated in this image of a child. It's the one who's left out. What we see through the book of Exodus and Leviticus and Numbers and especially Deuteronomy, what we see is as they're forming society, as they're creating this people of Israel, and they're trying to figure out how they can live together and in relationship with God. God's love letter to his people is, but don't forget the poor. Look, you Israelites, you're my people, that's awesome, I love you, you love me, that's great. But don't forget the refugee and the immigrant. Don't forget the people who are sick. Don't forget the widows who are going to be left out and left behind. Look, you live in your big house. That's awesome. Don't forget the people who are homeless. The whole message of the Old Testament is, but don't forget. Jesus stands up and reaffirms that. Jesus says, look, even the good shepherd will leave the 99 sheep to find the one. It doesn't mean he forsakes the 99 sheep. It doesn't mean he forgets the 99 sheep. It doesn't mean he looks down on the 99 sheep. It's that he would leave them for a moment to go and find the one who's lost, because that's where God's heart is. He's saying, because we live in a society that's not always fair and it's not always equal, and so we have to be intentional We have to be intentional in the way we care so that nobody is ever left behind. So when Jesus says, look, you can't even come to me. You can't even enter the kingdom of God unless, I'll read you the best translation. It says, truly I tell you, whoever does not receive the kingdom of God, as I am receiving these children, he's standing up and showing, look at the way I welcome these powerless to me. This is how you receive the kingdom. You go out and find the ones that society is pushing away and draw them to you. And that is the very kingdom of God. And who is your neighbor? Your neighbor is the one that you forget. The neighbor is the one on the edges of society. Your neighbor, the one you're meant to love. We're going back to basics. You're created to be in a relationship. And who are you supposed to be in a relationship with? Everybody. And I've come here to open your eyes to see who that includes. We know this instinctively. Because we've created this whole idea of democracy based on this very thing. We've created this nation of America built on this idea that we are equal, that all people are created equal. The life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness is the foundation and the bedrock of what we're trying to do as a society. We say these are our ideals, that our society is big enough to include everyone. No matter who you are, or where you are, or where you're from, that you come and you're on our soil, you are part of our team. And we fall short of that at times. There have been major times, and we've had revolutions, and wars, and protests when we stand up and say that it is not a time right now when everybody is being treated equally. We're at a time where people are not experiencing the same liberty. And so we need to do something about it. In the last several years, we've seen Black Lives Matter, where people are stepping up and standing up and kneeling down to say we are not being treated as equals when young black men are being disproportionately arrested and incarcerated and pulled over. We are not being treated equal, and so we're going to stand up and make our voices heard. The last year, we've seen this in the Me Too movement. In the last 2 weeks, where all I see on the news, all I see in social media, are women sharing stories of saying, I do not experience the same liberty as everyone else, and I've not been treated equal as everyone else. And what do we demand? Simply that we are created in the very image of God. We demand to be safe. We demand to be heard. We demand to be seen, not because of the age of our skin or the gender of our bodies, but because we're created to be in a relationship, and you're pushing us out of that relationship in these ways. And so it's a time when we have protests, and we have loud voices, because what we're saying is we need to re-examine who we are as a democracy. We need to draw the boundaries bigger to include everybody. That we need to shake ourselves, and sometimes we have to go back to basics. Sometimes we've got to destroy the painting and say, what is it all about in the first place? Why are we trying to create democracy in the first place? Is it for the 1%? Is it for white men like me? Or is it for everybody who stands on these shoulders? We have to go back to the beginning, and it doesn't begin outside, it begins right here inside the church. It begins in the church where we can model for the rest of the world how to create this society. I have a friend who goes to a church in Virginia. He's very upset because he has a young child, he has a 2-year-old son. And he leaves his son in the nursery downstairs, but at the time of communion he brings his children into the church. He's upset because somebody else came and said, your son is ruining our worship. Your son is making noise and being uncontrollable. And it's really distracting, and it's really upsetting. And my friend was just devastated. You're upset? Like, this kid driving me crazy. What are you talking about? You think a parent is like pinching their child to make him squirm? It's like, you're sitting there every 5 seconds. Stop moving. Stop moving. Be good. Quit that. I'll give you literally anything you want if you sit quiet for 1 more minute. It's so hard to be a parent, to bring your child to church, and then you feel so shamed when someone says, you ruined God for me. Like, sometimes you go back to basics and say, well, why are we at church in the first place? Why do we have liturgy? Is it so that we can be stoic? So that we can be like the art world where only those who look and act just like us are welcome and invited to participate? At the moment of baptism, we take children, pour water over their heads, and we say, we, the church, commit to raising this child. We, the church, commit to raising this child as a community. Because they're ornery, because they're vulnerable, because they make mistakes, because they don't do the things the way we do things. that we are going to do it all together, and it's too much for any one family. It's too much for any one person. And so what we're going to do is we're going to tolerate people who are making a mess of things. Because that's what it means to be in a relationship. Relationships are messy. Relationships are where you go to fight things out. And then you come back and you forgive each other, and you're stronger in your relationship because of it. It's because relationships are hard. And they last only because we're willing to do hard work. And so what we do as a church is we say the church is wide open for people who don't look like us, and don't act like us, and don't behave like us, because that's the creation God gives us. That we're called to be in a messy relationship with everybody. We're called to be in a messy relationship with everybody, where at times it's fraught, where at times we fight, where at times we get upset, and then we love each other, and then we celebrate with each other, and then we stand up and defend one another, so that we can go out into the world and model that in society and create a better world. A better democracy that goes back to basics, where we say we're meant to be in a relationship. We're meant to be in a relationship, and we're trying to create a country where everybody is treated as equal. Where everybody is welcome. Where everybody is loved. And at times we have to go to the places we don't want to go. We have to seek out and find the people who are being overlooked. We have to find the people who are being pushed to the very edges and say, but you're part of this society too. And we'll spend money on you. And we'll spend time on you. We'll spend effort on you. Because that's what it means to go out and find and create the society that God has given us. Where we find God has made us to be in a relationship. He's made us to be in a relationship with our neighbors. And who's our neighbor? Everybody. It's the people you love. It's the people you don't love. It's the people you forget about every day. But we're meant to be in a relationship.